Hello viewers and learners, welcome to this program. Today we will discuss on the International Day of the Forest and the theme would be Forest and Health. Welcome to the learners of the Postgraduate Diploma in Environmental Management and Law, and this year the theme for 2023 is Forest and Health, so we will discuss this in detail. So we all know that forests are a valuable natural resource, a precious natural resource, and we get so many good things from the forest resources. For example, we have the ecological benefits, we have the commercial uses, then we have so many types of medicines that are got from these forest resources. So the significance and importance of the forest is so much that these days, even in several countries in Japan, they are employing the forest bathing, which is a kind of an activity which is able to bring out good and rejuvenate the human systems and so on. So in this session, we will learn more about this. So why do we mark the international days? So they are occasions where we are educating the public on the various issues of concern. For example, it could be the World Earth Day or the Environment Day or the Forest Day. So here we are addressing some global problems, and it is also a day to celebrate and to bring about the environmental awareness and make people aware of these precious natural resources. The United Nations adopted and embraced them as a powerful advocacy tool. Now, this year the theme for 2023 is Forest and Health. So, as I said before, forests purify the water, they clean the air, they capture the carbon in order to fight climate change, they provide us with food and so many of the life-saving medicines and also improve our well-being. So the thought of the forest, even when we visit any forest, a closed canopy, and when we are in such regions, even it could be for tourism, it could be for any spiritual enrichment and so on, or even to do your daily exercise, the woods and the forest are so peaceful, and here we will find that they are making your system little more, better, and you feel happier and healthier to work and to do your daily activities. The International Day of the Forest. So the UN General Assembly, they proclaimed 21st March as the International Day for Forest in 2012 in order to celebrate and raise awareness of the importance of all types of the forest. And mostly, like the countries, they are encouraged to undertake some kind of a local, national and international efforts where they are able to organize certain activities involving the forest, the trees. It could be in the schools, in the colleges, and also in the organizations, in the companies, industrial sectors, everywhere. Here people could do small tree planting campaigns, and they could bring out some lectures and webinars and tell the people who are involved the importance of the forest and how precious these resources are to humankind. Now, in the constitutional right of India, the Constitution of India in 1950, this imposes a dual duty on the citizens and the state to protect and improve the natural environment, including the forest, the lakes, the rivers and the wildlife, and to have compassion for the living creatures. So this includes both the Article 48A and Article 51A. In 51A, it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect the natural environment, and 48A, it shall be the duty of the state to protect and improve the environment and safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. So here you see that in the Constitution of India itself, it is clearly mentioned that we have to, protect our forest and the natural resources well and sustainably. Now, how do we define the word forest? So this comes from the Latin word foris, which means out of doors, and or the land which is beyond those of the agriculture or the park kind of areas. And they form one of the most important natural resources. The importance of the forest. So they have been long considered as a rich social, ecological and economic value. They have so much of these values, and we are dependent on our sustenance. Like every day, we are using the perfumes, we are using cosmetics in our daily life, and we are using different kind of vegetables and fruits and so many other things. So we are dependent on, for our sustenance, for the well-being and health, and all this is directly linked, and we are dependent on these forest wealth and many of the processes that also come from these forest resources. Now, the forest, definitely this contributes to the health of the people. So, in a study that was reported in 2010, and 22 countries in Asia and Africa were studied, and there they said that the indigenous communities in these forest dwelling areas, in or near the forest areas, they use approximately 120 wild varieties of the foods per community. In India also, 50 million households, they supplement their diets with the fruits that are gathered from the forest and also the surrounding bushland. So you see here the fresh variety of the berries, and also some of the leaves also are edible from the forest. So this actually enhances the well-being of an individual. There is also dietary diversity. So the forest foods are contributing to the dietary diversity, and a diverse diet that will increase the diversity of the gut microbiome for improved health. So on this platter you find a diverse variety of lentils, of vegetables, of grains, and this is providing a good amount of energy, and the carbohydrate, the protein, the fat, the vitamin, the mineral content, everything is being got directly, and it really improves the nutrition of an individual, because here no kind of any chemical or fertilizer or any other artificial things are being used in order to cultivate these fruits and vegetables. So therefore their immune system also becomes very strong. Now we also get indigenous medicines from the forest resources. So those people, that is the forest dwellers who are situated or who dwell in or near the forest, they are distant from the centralized health services. So here they are dependent on the traditional medicines, or the traditional and folklore medicine and indigenous medicines, and this will include the folklore medicine, and a wide array of the ailments can be cured using this. So for example, the leaves of certain plants, even the seeds contain certain types of oils which are used to treat various diseases. Even the fruits and the flowers and the bark of the trees, all this have very good beneficial values, and we are able to get many of the medicines also from these forests. For example, for treating blood pressure, for treating certain types of cancers, for treating certain types of the even the non-communicable diseases, and also lifestyle associated diseases, all this, there is a medicine in this folklore medicine, in Ayurveda, and also in the forest derived medicines. So they provide the active ingredients for 25% of the world's medicines and the drugs. So even for the allopathic drugs, the raw material are being sourced from these forest resources. For example, we get eucalyptus oil from the eucalyptus tree. So that is able to treat many of the respiratory disorders. In the same way, from the Tylophora, we have a drug which is called as the tylocrebrin, and that has been very efficient in treating lymphoid leukemia. Now, in the same way, there are forests in Assam in India, and they are supposed to or known to host around 900 species of medicinal herbs and the plants. So they are commonly used to treat the problems that are related to the venom that comes from the snake bite, from asthma, from jaundice, from gynecological problem, then cancer, pneumonia, paralysis, also pharyngitis, and also some types of the ulcers. So these are the good things that we are getting from the forest, the medicines which are able to treat a wide array of the ailments. Now this seed or the nut of the Garcinia cola, that is used in Central Africa, and it is used as a purgative, anti-parasitic, and also antimicrobial, and that is also used in the treatment of bronchitis, in cough, and also in the throat infection. So the inner part of this, it's also known as the bitter kola. So the inner part of this bitter kola, that is used for the treatment of various diseases. Then another interesting study is that from the Chinese caterpillar fungus, which is a medicinal non-wood forest product. So this is commonly known as the Cordyceps sinensis, and the scientific name is Ophiocordyceps sinensis, and this is found in the Himalayan region of Bhutan, Nepal, etc., and it is used in the traditional Chinese medicine, and they say that this is so costly and it is valued at US dollars 20,000 to 40,000 per kilogram. And this contains 20 different types of the bioactive ingredients, and that has the immunomodulatory, anti-tumor, anti-inflammatory, and also the antioxidant activities. So here you see that what a different variety of the things that you get from the forest, and nature provides so much of us, but man has actually been involved in deforestation, in over exploitation of these forest resources. It could be for anything. It could be for the agricultural reasons, for the building purposes, for the construction of dams and so on, or even for getting the wood for timber and so on. So this has actually disrupted the natural forest, the natural vegetation, and then we are finding disruptions in the hydrological cycles and human induced climate change, and then we are finding an increased amount of the vector-borne diseases, transmissible diseases, and zoonotic diseases, which are also on the rise. So we should therefore protect these natural forests, these natural green areas, because they are so essential for our survival. Now, the forests also contribute to the improved immune system, whether it is human beings or whether it is in the animals. So, direct contact with nature, that will contribute to healthier composition of the even in the microbiota and the microbes that are living in the human gut. It's not only in the gut, even in the skin and also other areas of the body. So they help their human host by providing the essential nutrients, and then they will metabolize the indigestible compounds, and then they also defend us against the toxic and the nauseous pathogens, and also to improve the human immune functions are being improved to a very desirable extent. Now, forests also help in spiritual enrichment and cognitive development. So often you would have seen that people go to the woods, go to these green spaces for doing yoga, for doing meditation. And sometimes when people are really stressed from their work in their offices or even at home, we take a retreat or we try to go for a 15-day, peaceful kind of a peaceful or leisure activity, which could be very well done in the forest. Tai Chi, then also the forest shelter building activities. There are so many things to do. So it has been reported in the scientific journals, and also evidences are saying that a considerable potential in enhancing the public health can be got by adopting these green spaces by people in the urban and the peri-urban forest, by moving over there, and we can also have an improved environmental quality. And all the benefits, they include the spiritual enrichment and cognitive development benefits. So your mind becomes clear, you will become more fresh, and because of so much of the physical activity, you are going to de-stress yourself. So this is all giving you a very good sense of a feeling, and you're able to perform better in your work, and also if it is children, they can also perform better in their studies. So therefore this forest bathing or the green spaces are very much important for leading a healthy and happy life. Now this therapy, this is being followed in many of the countries. One such example is that which is followed in Germany. It is known as the Knipe therapy. So for hundreds of years, the Germans have been using the forest as sites for sanatoria for treating various infectious diseases including tuberculosis, and also as places for the exercise. So this Knipe therapy, this was given by the priest Sebastian Knipe between 1821 and 1897, and this is a holistic natural treatment system. It is based on exercise, on hydrotherapy, and also nutritional balance. So that was something about the therapy. So just like in Germany, many other countries are also following this. For example, in Australia, the Park Victoria, here they have declared as healthy people, healthy parks, And so here they are bringing about the ecotourism, nature tourism, and in some places they're also opening the restaurants in the Korea and other places where you're having the traditional wild food which is being sourced as such, and even the raw food is being served in the different natural green tourism they call it, where this food is being served to the locals and to the people who are visiting there. So there are the several benefits that we are getting from the forest, and they are also some kind of activities that are being done in order to raise and promote the awareness on the forest and the essential and the benefits of these forest areas. Now, in some cases, the forest foods can also be consumed directly. That means it can be taken as a raw leaf itself, it could be edible. So, they form a particular part of the diet for many of the rural communities that who are dependent on these forests for their survival. So, here the wild varieties of the herbs, there are nuts, there are fruits, there is wild meat, then also from the inland and the coastline waters, the fishery products are available, and they supply all the energy that is required for their daily activity, and there is sufficient amount of carbohydrate, protein, the fats, the vitamins, and this is being harnessed, or it is being given to almost around 1 billion people in the on this planet. So one such example is the Balanitis aegyptiaca. These are the leaves, and they grow in the drylands of Africa and Near East. So they can be collected and eaten as such. They are so nutritious, and as I said, they have all the energy content and the carbohydrate or the fat content which is required, proteinaceous in nature, and they are very tasty and nutritious. So people can just pluck it off the trees and then eat them as such. They are edible. In the same way, the baobab tree, which is also known as a tree of life, here in sub-Saharan Africa, this Adansonia digitata, this provides the fruits that contain 50% more calcium than even the spinach or the greenery or the green varieties, and they are high in antioxidants, and it also has 3 times the more amount of vitamin C than that of an orange, because oranges are supposed to contain a lot of the vitamin C. Then the leaves also contain vitamins and the micronutrients, and the seeds contain an edible oil which could be used for the cooking or also for the other purposes. So here you see that the trees, the leaves and the fruit products, even the seeds contain the edible oil which can be had as such, and they have utmost and so much of the beneficial value. Now in India, also in many parts of our country, we find different varieties of the greens, the celery, this are being grown, the spinach variety especially in the south of India, in the northeast and in north. So you find several varieties, and they contain a very high amount of the iron and various other nutrients which are required for the human body. So these are the very much important in the traditional culture, in the traditional forestry resource management, and also in the traditional cuisine, and people should take these resources seriously, and they should incorporate them in their daily life, and then we can also be cured of some of the ailments that we are suffering from. Now, it is not only that the forests provide us with commercial benefits and uses or the medicinal benefits, but they also have promoted and supported a number of the livelihoods, both in India and many other countries. So this here you see that in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the leaves of the Natum species, they are consumed as a leaf, as a vegetable, and they also provide revenue for women, contributing to the food security and nutrition. So this you might have seen in many of the places, in many of the states and the rural places in our country also, where freshly sourced the farm spinach or any other variety fruits and the vegetables. So it comes directly from the farms, and then the women are there, they sell them, and their livelihoods are being supported. In the same way, we also find the basket making, like for example bamboo. It could be the basket making, it could be the cane chair, or various other the Venetian blinds which are also made out of coir. Then the same way coconut farming, the husk of these coconuts, all this is being used. Even the ivory, though ivory is it's a wildlife trade and it should not be done, and it is endangering the species of many of the wildlife animals, but there are several of the good things which can support the livelihoods of many of the people who are settled globally. Commercial uses. So forests also provide us with the rubber, with cork, with also spices like coffee and tea. So they are really having so many benefits and we can't list all of them, but still they are very much important even in providing our daily writing paper, building materials, the buildings where we are staying in, the musical instruments for the furniture and so on. So they have several uses. Coming on to the ecological uses. So they are a natural habitat for wildlife. So in this picture you see a deer, and the sight of any of the plants, the animals, they give so much of joy to us. If it's a kangaroo, it's a rhinoceros, so they are all being maintained in the parks, in the reserves, and in these areas actually they are being protected, and the forests are also therefore a natural habitat for these species. Then they can absorb the toxic pollutants, they can also absorb the noise, and so they are helping in the noise pollution. They are also helping regulate the earth's climate in the cycling of the various elements like the global recycling of water in oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, all this which is useful to the life forms. And also they are preventing the soil erosion. Why? Because they are binding the soil to the plant roots firmly, and they also increase the soil fertility. Then they act as water purifying systems. For example, the mangroves, they can trap the silt and they can reduce the impacts on the marine ecosystems. Another important function that the forest has is they have a filtering role in the provision of the fresh water, where the 75% of the world's accessible fresh water is coming from these forested watersheds. So all these are the innumerable benefits, the commercial uses, the ecological uses, and what happens to the health when these forests become altered. So with increasing globalization, with urbanization, with the land use change, and also when humans are altering these forests and the landscapes, the wildlife population and structure is getting disturbed, the biodiversity is getting disturbed, and that is modifying the abundance and the dispersal of several of the species. It could be the vectors, then the pathogens, and so on. In the same way, when the hydrological functions are being altered, then the waterborne pathogens are on the rise. Then the climate change can also affect the survival of the disease host, the vectors, the pathogens, and overall it can affect the forest biodiversity. And another important thing is the traditional knowledge is being eroded totally. So many people, like due to in generations and the cultures which are existing, the traditional knowledge of all these edible forest resources, the plants and their benefits, these are becoming extinct due to the rapid industrialization, and the trends, the cultural trends are being affected, and they are affecting these contemporary indigenous societies and resulting in the ecosystem degradation and deforestation. All these activities are having a negative impact. And then transmissible diseases and the emerging zoonosis is on the rise. So here we are finding now that nowadays we are finding a large amount of the malaria, the dengue fever, the Lyme fever, Ebola. So all these are definitely they can be connected with the loss and the fragmentation of these forest habitats, and it is due to the encroachment of the humans into these habitats, into the forest habitat, and the habitat erosion, the globalization of the wildlife trade with the regulations which are not being adopted properly. All this have caused the pathogens that are jumping from the wildlife spaces and the domestic animals to the healthy people. So thereby these infectious diseases are being transmitted from the forest or from the wild to the humans. Now climate change, is this affecting the forest and the health, and what about the human induced climate change? That is a major factor for the disease emergence. It is influencing environmental conditions which can affect the survival and reproduction of certain pathogens, the vectors and host, and this is now we are saying that many of the disease outbreaks and the epidemics, they have become more frequent when the climate continues to change. The forest species, they are migrating into the new habitats and regions. So one example what we gave was that of the pathogens, the vector-borne diseases and the zoonotic diseases which are jumping from the wild to the humans to here. So there are new challenges. The human health issues are also arising. We are having allergy producing forest species which are migrating into the new habitats. One example is in Europe, the moth, that is the Thomopetopia. This is expanding northward, And the caterpillars of this species, they are covered with the bristles and they carry a skin toxin kind of an irritant, and they can cause respiratory problems when that is being inhaled. So this is causing a new kind of a health threat because this has migrated from its original space to another place. So that is causing problems for the human kind. The forest also play a very important role in poverty alleviation. So they are helping in the achievement of the SDGs, and despite all these priceless ecological or economic, social and the health benefits, forests are being endangered by the fire, by the pest, by droughts, by unprecedented deforestation and so many other activities. So policies and good practices are very much required. The policies and the institutions, they are important in shaping the forest contributions to food and to health, and effective and well implemented and well enforced forest policies and management are necessary to secure the health and functions of the forest and deliver their benefits to the citizens. So we need to see the One Health approach. So all this has to be addressed properly, where we integrate all the sectors touching on the human front, on the animal and also the environmental health. And this is clearly needed, and we need to address these vital issues at the interface between human, animals and the various environments. So a One Health approach is very much important. Now, the sustainable wildlife management is also important. When we say that the wildlife management, whereas the hunting of this and the trade of the wildlife animals, whether in nutrition, because they have a lot of importance in nutrition, in the traditional medicine, and also this transmission of the zoonotic diseases. So all this should be curbed, and we need a balanced approach, and sustainable wildlife management approaches are also required. Now, valorization of the traditional knowledge. So this traditional knowledge, as I said, in generations to come and in the several of the cultures, the communities are knowing about the importance of specific plants and their medicinal importance or various other importance. So the traditional knowledge about the use of these natural forest produce in food security, it could be in nutrition, in medicine. So the communities are knowing this over centuries, over so many years of time. But then, and it also has deep-rooted cultural and economic significance. And women, if we see, they have a very good role, they have a large role in keeping this traditional knowledge alive. From long back, we have seen there have been several ecofeminism movements like the Chipko movement, where it was an ecofeminist movement where the women hugged the trees, they protected the trees from being felled and being cut. So here women have been very important in protecting these forests and natural resources. In the same way, the Green Belt movement, this was an indigenous movement in Kenya, started by Professor Wangari Maathai in 1977, and she received the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 2004. Here, 51 million trees were planted and 30,000 women were trained in order to support their livelihoods, and they could also keep their lands side by side. So they were trained in forestry, in apiary, in beekeeping, and they were earning their income while also preserving their land and resources. So that was a Green Belt movement. And healthy people will lead, the healthy forest will lead to the healthy people and also to the good human health. So therefore, the maintenance of these healthy forests in landscape, that has to be very integral, and it needs to be a part of all the designing projects also in environmental designs, and in order to reduce the risk of the epidemics. Nature-based tourism should be increased. The nature restaurants have been set up. I gave you some examples. The Tai Chi and forest shelters are also now people are practicing them. Forest bathing is one concept which has come up in Japan. And healthy parks and healthy people, which came in the Park Victoria in Australia, where the promotion and the importance of the forest and their resources for the human health, this has been subtly that they have been told in a very nice way, thereby educating the general public about the forest and their uses for education. Therefore, forests are essential to achieving the sustainable development goals. They are essential, and the 2030 agenda recognizes the fundamental connection between people and the forest. So promoting the linkages between forest and human health can contribute directly and indirectly to achieving all the sustainable development goals. And the sustainable forest management, this is the most effective tool, and that will actually ensure linking of all ensure the delivery of all these linkages, where we are able to link the key sectors. So therefore, my dear learners and viewers, I hope today you have got an understanding about how precious the natural resources, especially the forest resources, are to the environmental health, to the human health, and the forest are the wealth, and we are very much dependent, for our sustenance on these forests, for our food, for our nutrition, for the socio-economic reasons, even for many of the livelihoods, and also they are supporting the medicine, the a lot of the medicines, whether it is traditional medicine, and also some of them are also being used in the allopathic medicines, where the raw material comes from these forests. Also, we are getting a number of the resources, and also indirectly by spiritual rejuvenation and also the cognitive memory development, we are able to de-stress ourselves. So forests are the lifeline, or they are helping us improve our health and well-being. And this was what we wanted to tell today, to educate the entire people, that the importance of the forest and why we need to protect these natural resources. Thank you for your patient listening.
Indira Gandhi National Open University, accredited with A++ grade by NAC, provides you a quality education in open and distance learning. School of Performing and Visual Art is offering a wide range of programs in performing and visual art. Certificate program in painting, certificate program in